Hey guys, my name is Chantel. Welcome back to my channel and thanks for hanging out with me today. So today we are going to talk about Idolish7 Third Beat episode 18. I know this is like 2 weeks late, but here we are. We're going to discuss it and let's just get right to it. So the episode basically starts off with the boys getting like these odd jobs that would usually go to Trigger, but since, Trigger has been pretty much blacklisted, the boys are getting these odd jobs, and Sogo actually ends up asking if there's anything that they could do for Trigger since the boys feel kind of hopeless and they just feel bad overall about the situation and are wondering if there's anything that they can do to help them since Trigger has helped them in the past and all that. So yeah, and this actually leads up to a conversation with Tamaki saying how it was weird that Sogo had asked what they could do to help since he never does that kind of thing. To which Sogo replies that it's because he felt helpless, especially when his uncle was going through a similar situation. So seeing that, it kind of really makes me see Sogo's point of view, and I'm like, oh, so that's why he feels a little bit anxious. That's why he's acting like this and acting a little different from time to time, like how Tamaki is saying how Sogo is acting a little different, someone that we really don't know. And that's just because he's feeling anxious and doesn't know what to do with the situation or how to handle it. And in a way, I feel like this is giving him some sort of PTSD because he feels probably that he's experiencing this all over again, but now with Trigger instead of his uncle. Which I really love that Tamaki ends up reassuring him that Trigger will be fine, that they will get through this. And Sogo actually ends up opening up a little bit more to Tamaki and says that, he's afraid that Tamaki will leave if people talk bad about him. To which Tamaki replies that Sogo just wants people to praise him just like his uncle. And this actually makes Sogo realize that that's probably all he really wanted in life, was for people to praise his uncle and recognize him as a musician, And we know that his family did not approve of anything related to music, especially with Sogo going into the music industry. We know his family didn't like that. So I think it's a little bit hard for Sogo to really see and realize these things, but he's realizing these things thanks to Tamaki. Tamaki is able to see things from a different perspective, and I think that's because he's just so innocent. I don't know if that makes any sense, but Tamaki is just very honest and very childlike, and it's kind of like with a little kid where they see things differently from an adult's view, and they're always there to be like, oh, everything's kind of fine and everything, I just feel like that's what Tamaki is doing right now. Like I said, he just has that innocence in him that he sees things in a different perspective. He sees the world differently. Anyway, so moving on to the next thing that we see, which is Yuki and Momo are also getting the odd jobs from Trigger. And I love that the manager for Rivale is like, you guys don't have to take these jobs if you guys don't want to or feel like you're not a good fit for them. But I love that Momo is like, no, I'm gonna do it because this is gonna be a good chance to make more connections and make people realize that they can rely on us and not on Ryo-san. So they're already trying to get ahead of the game and trying to get this whole new modern day Chivas Salon going. That way they can have all the support that they need and fight back against Ryo-san, which is a really, really good strategy. And just like Yuki said earlier, a couple episodes back, is that Momo has this charm where he's able to connect easily with people. So he's definitely taking that to his advantage, which is really, really nice. Anyway, so moving on from that, the next thing that I do want to talk about is Zul. So Zul appears on a night show and it seems like they're getting a lot of love surrounding them and people are making articles, and Rico actually gets to see or read, I should say, this article where they start mentioning 10, like how Ten and Haruka are very different and stuff like that. And this just rubs Riku the wrong way. And he's just like, they're making it seem like Ten is out of the industry. Which Yamato does end up replying with, well, that's even a miracle in itself because people won't even mention triggers. So that's something in a way. And then the conversation actually ends up shifting to where Mitsuki mentions how he noticed that Zul has a sharp tongue, and to which Nagi replies that they should just be smile and gentle and to try not to get angry and to tell themselves like this is just a skit, remind yourselves that way they won't get under your skin. To which the boys actually give it a go, and it ends up working out for them because it looks like Zul already right off the bat, as soon as they see Idolish7, they're already trying to get under their skin. And of course they are like, trying to make the best out of the situation. And while this is all happening, I do love that Riku does end up going to Toma, and he tells him, how he sees that Toma isn't a bad person, but he doesn't agree with what Ryo-san and everything that they're doing as a group. But in the end, he hopes that Toma will end up singing earnestly someday. And, this definitely catches Toma off guard. And like I said earlier, I really feel it in my gut that Riku is going to be the trigger to getting Zul to change maybe a little bit or make Toma see something differently. But after that, they actually end up filming Lovely Night with Zul, and things start to get a little nasty. Zul is already trying to bite at Idolish7 is the best way I can describe that. So they are playing dirty and trying to kind of expose them and make them seem like they're not all that great, which is not great for Idolish7. And they try their best to, not fight them back, but try to be really respectful and everything, keep their image clean as best as they can. And things get a little bit heated when Haruka ends up mentioning Ten by name, where he doubts that Ten has any friends because of the way that he is. And Riku, of course, jumps in, tries to defend Ten, but he slips up and he mentions how, Tenni. And Mitsuki has to remind him, like, hey, like, be quiet. We can't use this anymore anyway. Like, try not to slip up. To which now the Zul members now know that Ten and Riku are related, to which they also say like, oh, like they're nothing alike. It doesn't seem like they would be brothers, obviously. To which this ends up leading Toma to go up to Riku and try to talk to him. And I feel like he was gonna try to, like, I guess in a way get under his skin, but things shift because Riku is actually being open and honest with Toma and tells him, the hardships that they had to go through because of bad articles in the past and how it affected his family. And we actually get to see Toma's reaction, and it, like I said, it shifts because it looks like he was going to tease him or do something towards Riku. But again, like I said, it changes the whole atmosphere because Riku is being open and honest, and I feel like Toma doesn't know what to do with that other than to respond open and honestly and be respectful back, because I feel like with Toma, like I said earlier, I really feel the same way as Riku. Toma really isn't a bad guy. Like, I can see it. Like, he says one thing, but his actions say another. So that's why I really, really like Toma as a character so far, because he actually genuinely cares for the people around him. And you can tell he does care for Riku in a way, even though he may not realize it right now, but he definitely, has a soft spot for Riku. But honestly, like, who doesn't love Riku? And it actually ends up with Toma saying that he's not going to tell anyone about this, and he tells Riku to take care of his mom, and I'm just like, oh, you big softy, And then the next thing that I do want to talk about that is happening while the boys are on a break is when Minami talks to Yamato and Nagi. So, of course, Yamato is like going head on trying to confront Minami, and he's just like, hey, why did you say all that? Like, while we're filming, he's just like, well, that's how I felt. What do you want me to do? And basically is trying to say, I was being honest. Like, do you want me to lie? And, Nagi is trying to tell him, like, just smile and be gentle. And of course, Minami is like, oh, hey, Nagi, you looked wonderful during your Sakura message performance. And Nagi was just like, oh, yeah, thank you. Like, being happy about that. But then you hear Minami saying, like, oh, I was just being sarcastic. And I was just like, like, what the heck? Like, I felt like that was so rude. And I was just like, what the heck? To which now we know, like, there's something lingering there. We know that he doesn't like Nagi, and it has to do with Haruki. Right now, we don't know what it is, but I'm assuming we'll find out later. But it's kind of like, ooh, like, Minami is bearing out his fangs, and he is not afraid to do so. Anyway, so when Zul tries to get to perform during Lovely Night, Haruka actually ends up stopping mid-performance and basically says, like, oh, he's getting offended. He doesn't like how the Idolish7 boys are staring at him and glaring at him. And to which Yamato, him being the leader, he ends up going to Minami and asking him, like, hey, can you talk to Haruka so we can get things rolling? And Minami, of course, we know how Minami is. He's just like, well, it's actually your guys' fault because, you guys are glaring at him and he doesn't like it and you guys are making him feel bad. So why don't you talk to your members? And it's just like, oh, like, Minami really does irk me, especially the way that he talks, and he talks with a smile. I'm just like, boy, if you don't stop, like, like, he is just such a good antagonist, I will say that, and it just makes this whole thing enjoyable to see and watch. Like, it hurts, but it's the drama, man. Anyway, so this ends up with Sogo saying that he's gonna go and apologize and make things right between them, but he's also upset that they won't sing earnestly, even though it's such a good song that they're singing. Poisonous Gangster is obviously great, and he mentions how he'll never forget those that he's apologized, both in a good way and a bad way, like in a good sense. And we see that Sogo's like claws are trying to come out and everyone is afraid, especially Yamato, because he's like, wait, he's apologized to me a lot of times, what does that mean? Which made me laugh so much. I feel like we need like these little comedic moments in times where this episode feels a little intense. But yeah, moving on to the next thing, which is probably the main focus of the whole entire episode, which is Mezzo. So Mezzo has a new song, and Tamaki suggests that they have Nagi listen to it now to help cheer him up, since he is feeling a little bit down because of the whole thing that's happening with Haruki. And Nagi actually ends up saying how he actually heard this song being performed by Haruki back when they were in North Mare. And Tamaki asked if there was anything about the song that Haruki had mentioned, or what was, his vision and stuff like that. And Nagi mentions that he wrote it while imagining the things that he liked, and how when something we love gets rejected, we fight for its honor. And this, when Nagi is making like this big speech about that, we actually see Sogo's eyes light up a little bit, and it almost feels like something clicked in Sogo, and something like he finally realized something that he's been wondering all along. And he starts mentioning how back at home rejection was always constant, and how because of it he in turn rejected his family because they didn't want to accept the things that he loved, or his uncle, his music and stuff like that. And how, it's just a bad situation overall. But Nagi also mentions how sometimes, disagreements can be a beautiful thing, because he mentions how, when you really, really love someone or have a beloved friend, you make the effort to understand them. And that's exactly what happened with Mezzo. Like, both Sogo and Tamaki were polar opposites. They always got into arguments, couldn't really understand each other, but they always tried to meet in the middle to try and understand each other's point of view and understand each other and fix their issues and problems that they were going through. And now it's like just all love, and they are better because of the trials that they went through. Which honestly was really, really wholesome, because Tamaki asked for like a little cute group hug, and it's just, it warmed my heart, you know? And this conversation actually ends up triggering something in Sogo, to which he ends up talking to Tamaki, and he kneels down in front of him. And I feel like he kneels down in Tamaki to let him know, like, you know, like, what's the right word? Not saying like he's lower than Tamaki, but to like, I feel like he feels like he needs to be respectful and lower himself a little bit because of what he's about to say, which I thought was really sweet, because he's trying to get Tamaki to understand him, and he's also afraid of what Tamaki might say. Basically, he says that he wants to try to compose songs for Mezzo and wanted Tamaki's opinion. And Tamaki, of course, being the sweet child that he is really excited for Sogo, and he tells him how it's amazing and that he should do it. And Togo actually replies, he's like, but what if I'm not good enough? What happens if you don't think I'm that great? What's gonna happen with Nagi and Haruki songs? And Tamaki says, you know, no matter what happens, even if the song is terrible, like, he will sing it anyway because it came from Sogo, which I thought was so sweet, you know, like, oh, like my heart was gonna burst, you guys. And then Tamaki also said that no matter what, Tamaki will always hear Sogo out before saying anything, and to try to get him to, you know, understand what Sogo's probably going through, and how he doesn't need to be nervous around him. And I love that Tamaki also kneels down in front of Sogo, so they're like on the same level. Like, I thought that was really sweet, but also very, very, very symbolic there, because to me, seeing that, it goes to show you that Tamaki sees Sogo as the same level, like they're on the same wavelength, and that, you know, these two are on the same page. That's what that scene really told me, especially when they're both kneeling down together and just seeing eye to eye. It just, like I said, warmed my heart, and it made me think of all the times and just the struggles and everything that Mezzo went through. And it made me happy, because it made me realize and see just how far along Mezzo has come along these past couple seasons. And then at the end of the episode, Sogo actually ends up telling everyone what he told Tamaki, that he wants to write songs for Mezzo, and he basically gets everyone's approval, of course, and everyone's really happy and excited for him. And how Sogo was worried about Nagi and Haruki songs, but Nagi was like, no, like, Haruki songs should never get in the way of your dreams. And I think that's when Sogo realized that this was a dream of his for a while, was to compose songs, which was really, really nice. And then we get to hear Dear Butterfly as the ending song, which I have heard in the past. But seeing this episode and the backstory for Dear Butterfly now just, it made me emotional, because like the ending credits and then seeing everything that's happened with Mezzo from season 1 till now, it just made me so emotional. And it just, oh my gosh, you guys, it just makes me appreciate Mezzo more as a group. And I love Tamaki and Sogo, like, they're just so precious, and I really enjoyed this episode so much. Anyways, you guys, that's all I really have to say for this week's, or I should say that 2 weeks ago's episode. I'm gonna go ahead and record the next episode in a bit, so I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts. I will try to get this out as soon as possible to you guys, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!